Dude and Grim Show presents Scratch Track,
the podcast where we debate which track to scratch off some of the most known and unknown albums of all time.
We live in an era of singles.
This is an album.
People no longer listen to an album for the work it truly is.
It kind of defines a band.
It's just not something that people relate to nowadays.
We've all gotten the dreaded.
It started out as a game.
Which track on the album would you scratch out if you had to? Hey everyone, welcome to another exciting episode of the Scratch Track podcast presented by The Dude and Grim Show. I'm The Dude.
And I am Grim, and today we are going to discuss a real gem and a real classic, American Beauty by the Grateful Dead.
A beauty. It's just a beauty.
Yeah,
I mean,
it really is.
It is, but it is a beautiful album.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be American, but you know, they're American, we're American, it kind of makes sense.
Definitely not today's America.
Yeah, true.
Okay. But anyways, before we get started, just want to remind everybody that, hey, give us a like, give us a subscribe, give us a follow. And if you're on YouTube or if you're on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or whatever, you know, it would really go a long way for us and our future. So
yeah, because that's really this is we're not banking on just today here. This is a long game. You know,
exactly,
so.
The long game. Yeah, we're in for the long run. Like, you know, I'm going to keep rocking and rolling. What does Dirk Diggler say? I think we just keep rocking and rolling.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. After he wins his first award,
AVN,
for best cock or whatever it was, cock of the year. All right. Anyways, we're off to a blazing start here, ladies and gentlemen. So yes, the Grateful Dead's American Beauty, one of our favorite albums. Now, I kind of think I brought this one to the table. You
absolutely.
Remember differently.
No, absolutely. I mean, if I was going to give a shout out here in two letters, it'd be TD for the Dude, because this was absolutely one that you brought to the table. Because I think at that time, at least in my life, the only bit I had of the Grateful Dead was, I think, like some sort of double best of, and you know, there were
Rick's
tracks.
Picks.
Yeah, not Rick's
Dick's Picks. That's mine. That's my version.
Yeah. Oh, okay. But yeah, I guess I can't say that I had this album in its entirety, and I only knew a few cuts off it because of that. And yeah, you threw this album out there, and I mean, it was a real big one for me, still is.
Yeah, I remember at that point I'd had Touch of Grey, and of course the name of that album eludes me, but I'd known that song, and before that I never really knew much about the Grateful Dead. It wasn't what I thought it was.
You know, it's funny you say Touch of Grey.
I judged them by the name 100%.
Now I got to add that to the sheet for a little some side episodes that are coming up next year. But Touch of Grey is a very good one because there was a pretty good video that went along with that song, and maybe the Grateful Dead's only MTV music video. But at any rate, that video was, I mean, anyone who ever watched MTV would probably remember that video.
Yeah.
Some would say the video helped make the song.
Some say. Dude, we should also look up and see if Macy Gray did a cover of Touch of Grey, because I think that would be... Dude, we're getting close to 50 Shades of Grey at that point. Let's just make a note, everyone. Make a note.
Okay.
But so, yeah, I do remember that was kind of my introduction to the Grateful Dead. And then, you know, you and I really got into Flower Power and all that kind of shit and started doing research. I was really into the Doors, and I started getting more into the 60s. Yeah, acid. And I started doing a lot of reading and getting books. And of course, you can't read about... actually, I think it was the book, and I have it somewhere around here. I Want to Take You Higher, and it's basically the history of LSD.
I remember that.
Such a good book. And the Grateful Dead was a huge part of that. They talk about San Francisco a lot. And so I kind of started doing a little more research. And I think through some of my reading, they mentioned 2 albums, Working Men's Dead and then American Beauty. And so I went to Circuit City or Best Buy or wherever it was. And I was like, you know what? I'm just going to get both of them because they're probably that good. And I will say of the 2, I do prefer American Beauty over Working Men's Dead. There are good songs, but I think, and they talk about there's this great documentary, classic albums called Anthem to Beauty.
Yeah.
It's on Amazon Prime. And one of the things they really discuss in that documentary is the maturity of the band during that time. They had been going through a lot of stuff. Phil Lesh's father passed away.
Yeah.
They owed Warner Brothers like $200,000.
And did you read that apparently Mickey Hart's dad was like their pseudo manager at the time, renewed the contract with Warner Brothers just before they were going to do this album, and then like skipped town with a bunch of their money. I was just
thanks, Dad.
Yeah. Well, Thanksgiving's going to be really interesting this year.
I love you, Dad. Yeah. It could be a little awkward. Yeah. And I haven't done any follow up to see if they, kind of mended fences or anything there, but something tells me it would take a lot for that.
Another thing that's interesting about those 2 albums is that's noted as being, those 2 albums specifically were noted as being this really prolific writing period where Jerry Garcia and Robert Hunter collaborated a lot on the writing, and in the documentary you mentioned, Robert Hunter is in the documentary a lot, and he I like what he throws to the table and the stuff that he helped write. I mean, it's really good stuff.
Those songs are just beautiful. That he is such an amazing poet, and I think he was, from what the little bit I did look up on him, I think he was also a musician as well. But you would almost, there's a part of me that thinks you'd almost have to be to kind of fit certain words and vocal patterns into songs.
Well, but at the same,
or if they shaped it around it, I don't know.
I don't know, because you look at Elton John and Bernie Taupin is probably the best example, I would argue, in history of like a musician and a songwriter who teamed up and came up with amazing stuff. And I don't know that
You're
Taupin,
amazing, dude.
Another Wayne's World.
I just had to work it.
Dude, every episode Wayne's World is coming up. But I don't know that Taupin was a musician. If you ever watched the movie Rocket Man, he's not, and not that that's like, the true to life biography line for line, but it doesn't portray him as a musician. And I think some people maybe just can write this poetry in a way that goes with the music as the musician as it comes to them.
Sure. Well, even I myself have a few songwriting credits to my name. Idiot Child, Getting Fucked Up Cup. So
which you could probably you will hear as the intro for a lot of our Getting Fucked Up. Yeah, that was prolific.
Yeah, I just think my writing career peaked too early. It did. So.
Yeah, that and the world just wasn't ready. But back to the songs on this album. So the majority of them were written by Jerry Garcia and Robert Hunter. And one thing that I found interesting is there's a handful of them on this album. So Friend of the Devil comes to mind to me. Ripple, Broke Down Palace, and even Addicts of My Life. And the thing that gets me about those is they're not, but when you listen to them, the way they're recorded, the way they're written, it would almost feel as like these are some sort of traditional American folk songs that the Grateful Dead repurposed for this album. And they weren't, but they have such a classic feeling to me that reminds me of some of these like traditional folk songs that, like, for example, Bob Dylan would redo or something like that. It kind of evokes that sort of feeling. I think, at least it always did for me as the listener. Yeah,
well, it is funny because I forget who says it in the documentary. Maybe it's Bob. It could be Bob Weir or Phil Lesh. Probably he's like, well, Jerry loves a sad song.
Yeah, yeah.
And there are those songs. I don't want to call them like they're melancholy, but there's the songs have some depth and sort of. Maybe I don't know if I'd say remorse, but there's
definitely
deep emotion.
Introspective. Yeah,
introspective for sure. Yeah, and just some really really beautiful songs. And this was also kind of a different album for them. A lot of the songs are, I mean, there's songs that are upbeat, but there's a lot that aren't necessarily what you call jammy, because even at this point in their career, this was their fifth studio album, but they were not known for being like, hey, I'm going to go pick up the new Grateful Dead album. It was their live show, their tours, the acid test stuff. That was what people really kind of gravitated towards. And even Joe Smith, he was the head of Warner Brothers or in charge of the music division.
Yeah.
He was like, can you guys do something under like 45 minutes with melody?
And I think
just to get on the radio.
I think he offered a lot of great stuff in that documentary because he came at it from this different perspective. And he was like, everybody at Warner Brothers was like terrified of the Grateful Dead just because of the name, the image that went around him with the skeletons, and the fact that, I mean, they were all not unfamiliar with the drug culture, right? So they had them as a band because they probably wanted that demographic, but they were terrified. And I love when he says that they brought this album and they played it for all the Warner Brother execs, and people were like moved by it.
Because it was just expected.
No, it was beautiful. It really is.
Yeah. Well, one thing that Mickey Hart says too is, he was like, it was kind of great. He was like, because the record company and the people in charge were too afraid to come around the studio because they couldn't eat or drink anything because they were afraid it had acid in it.
Yeah. And so they just left him alone.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and one thing that they did negotiate when they were doing their record contract, and it sounds like it was unprecedented for the times, and I'm sure is today, is unlimited studio time. And they wanted to go in there though, and they wanted to kind of do it themselves and figure it out. They didn't want anyone else really, making their sound. They wanted to figure it out. But there were some producers and engineers who I think took part, but they also like went through producers and engineers.
Because they got sick of them.
They were too wild. They were too crazy.
And there were some stories in there that I really like. One of them was, I think it was Phil Lesh describing how he wanted Addicts of My Life to sound, which I think is a very good description, but he wanted it to sound like 1,000 Petal Lotus opening. And that's a beautiful description. And to me, that song does sound like that. And the other one that I know you're going to talk about is what is it? Bob Weir.
Bob Weir, like, the Thick Air.
I want the sound of thick air.
Definitely. Well, then there's also another one, and who says it? Oh, I have it in my notes for each individual song, so if I can't find it here, but basically, he wanted to take. It was Phil Lesh. He was like, "Okay, this is what we're going to do. We're going to drive out to L.A. and we're going to record 30 minutes of heavy air in LA.
Yeah.
Then we're gonna go out to the desert. We're gonna record 30 minutes of clear air. We're gonna mix that together, and then we're gonna use that as the rhythm track for the song." Like, dude,
I've tried to do stupid shit like that, and I can tell you, it would basically be like,
yeah.
Well, I mean, like, there's gonna be nothing, and then, well, I guess with the LA, there'd be a lot of cars and shit too, but that'd be about
it. Yeah. So I don't know if they ever fully implemented that, but
So one thing that I thought was interesting is, and I guess I disagree with this ranking. And granted, I don't know what the criteria was for doing this, but apparently when they did their 500 greatest albums of all time, This album was only ranked number 258 out of 500 on Rolling Stone's list. And I'm sorry, like, I just don't buy that. Like, to me, especially, I guess it's hard when you take in everything from like the international scope, because there's a lot of great stuff that came out of everywhere. Yeah. But to me, this is better than that. This is top of the heap for me.
Well, it's one of those things that, especially, you figure you'd give an iconic band itself just kind of like a higher ranking. Like, I hate to say it, but you would almost prioritize, well, this band is amazing, they have a phenomenal album, that
they're more important in history.
Maybe a little higher. I think it definitely. I mean, I'd love to see that list, and I could look it up right now, but I don't want to. So
that's fair.
But it's such a beautiful album. It also is very reflective, I think, of that time period, and it's just really well done. And it's interesting because I think when they were going in the studio, they did go for more of a kind of a softer acoustic feel. The harmonies on this album are just absolutely gorgeous. The way that their voices work and play together, they just do an amazing job. So.
And I think somebody from some publication said that
somebody from somewhere.
Yeah, said that this was their studio masterpiece. And I would agree with that because, like you said, not necessarily a studio band, not known for that. That just wasn't them. Their bread and butter was the live bit. And so for them to have this, it is kind of, it's really cool in that regard.
Yeah. And a lot of the songs people would know are on this album. Truckin' was the only single that they released,
which is surprising
off this album. But it's a good radio song. It moves.
Oh, sure. When you think about classic rock radio, there's maybe this and 1 to 2 others that could really pull it off.
Yeah. I think Sugar Magnolia, maybe Friend of the Devil. People know that song.
Yeah.
Those are I think the 3 ones I think most people are probably familiar with. But but it did reach. So it peaked at 30 on the Billboard 200. So people bought it, people knew of it. But I think over time, it's one of those things that's really gained a lot of steam, and people appreciate it. Definitely appreciate it much more. And I guess, dude, so they did have unlimited studio time, which I think they probably used a lot for Working Man's Dead and just kind of around that time. But they released this album. It almost like, I think they said it was almost like 4 months after Working Man's Dead came out. Like it was very quick because I think, like I said earlier, they were in debt to Warner Brothers and they needed to get out of it. They had a whole bunch of stuff going on. They were charged with possession, I think, in New Orleans, and I guess Warner Brothers
trucking.
Warner Brothers had to bribe Jim Garrison, who's the DA of New Orleans at the time, to get him out of it. And Jim Garrison's was the DA who brought, like in the JFK assassination, he brought that to trial. So kind of interesting, that story, because I had only known Jim Garrison from like the movie JFK when that whole story is told, and you hear he's like,
so in your mind he's Kevin Costner.
Yeah, he's clean, right? Yeah, he's good, So, anyways, well, what do you say, Grim? Should we get into the album here?
Yeah, I think that's I think that's a good idea.
Okay, cool. Well,
I'm going to let you kick it off because I know that the first song on the album is always, I would argue, maybe your favorite.
It definitely was, and that's one thing. When I got the CDs and I put this album in, and I just the way Boxer Rain starts, I was just like, whoa, I love this already. Like it has such a good fresh start. It's upbeat. But then you listen to the words, and it took me a while, and I think the documentary really sheds a lot of light on it. It's mainly about Phil Lesh's father, who was dying of cancer at the time. It's it's kind of about that and coming to terms with that as like a young man. And
yeah, and he was driving back and forth a lot, as it says, to see him. And I think that he said that really prompted a lot of the feeling and even the lyrics in the song.
Absolutely. And I think the song is really, it's deep. And I think kind of like you said earlier, this album has a lot of introspective moments. This song certainly hits that, but it's also, to me, from a recording standpoint, it's a very polished song. Like everything, it sounds very full. It's there. And, Robert Hunter also helped write lyrics, I think, with Phil Lesh for the song. I'm not sure how, it's hard to say where duties were split up, but
yeah, sure.
But just some really nice poetic touches from Robert Hunter on this song, as you would expect.
Well, yeah, and it's funny because the not just this song, but the whole thing does sound polished, and I'm always amazed when you listen back to these. And again, the nerd side of me is like, how the hell did they do this with probably only 8 tracks to work with?
Yeah,
I mean, it's really impressive that they can pull it off. But
absolutely, it is.
So, Friend of the Devil. Friend of the Devil. Again, this is one that I said that in my mind, if you didn't know any better, you would think this is some sort of a classic folk song that they reinterpreted.
Yeah.
It's just, it tells an interesting story of kind of like somebody on the run, and obviously has a lot of baggage wherever they're going. It seems like, based on the lyrics.
Yeah, well, it's funny too because it sounds like from some of the lyrics too. It sounds like it's also about a guy, and he's kind of got some ladies, I think. That's what
I was getting into. Yeah.
Okay, all right. That more of that on the run as opposed to kind of like the trucking on the run.
Yeah. And I like it because it's the first, I think, David Grissman, who played mandolin on the album. I believe 2 songs. This song and Ripple, and I think that part is really integral to me to the sound of the album.
Yeah.
And the songs
absolutely.
that they put him on was great. And I love the story of how he ended up on the album, is that he went to San Francisco to hang out with Jerry Garcia. And
they were at a softball
him.
Game.
Yeah.
They were at
the Grateful Dead versus
the
the Jefferson Airplane.
Probably, because they used to do that shit. Yeah.
Yeah. And he's like, oh, hey, man, you should just come and record on these tracks. And then lo and behold, you're, just happen to be on one of the best albums ever. So that's not bad either.
Well, 258 of 500 according to Rolling Stone, so let's not get ahead.
Fuck that. Yeah.
I know, but you're right. The parts that he puts in on "Friend of the Devil" and then and then "Ripple" as well. It does. It just, the sound of the mandolin, man. It's beautiful.
It makes the song.
It gives that American folk song that
yes, it does.
It's timeless. It's great.
And then you got Sugar Magnolia, which goes into a different, more of a straight ahead rock song.
Yeah, it is, and it's definitely more upbeat. And now this song is, I find it interesting. The first 3 songs now we have "Box of Rain," I believe, is sung more by Phil Lesh. I think he takes the lead, and then "Friend of the Devil" is more by Jerry. Now there's harmonies and stuff throughout, and backing vocals, but they're the leads. And then "Sugar Magnolia" is Bob Weir. So it's not, they split up duties, and it gives a nice variety to their sound.
That kind of reminds me of like how the Beatles would do things, where they all sing, but typically like the guy who wrote the song is like the main singer.
Absolutely.
And so this song obviously is about a girl or some sort of relationship. So, I mean, lyrically, I think it's just a nice kind of upbeat song. But one thing that I'm quite sure as I listen to it, I would need clarification. So if Bob Weir, if you want to comment on the video, that would be great. But it sounds to me like he recorded his guitar through a Leslie organ speaker.
Okay.
Which I should have unwrapped mine and had the thing spinning, but it's basically a spinning. It spins slowly, and and if you listen to the guitar part, it just kind of has this constant like slight change that goes throughout it. And that's a technique that a lot of people have used. And I know that we'll get into it on other albums, hint, hint, Exile on Main Street. But it gives the guitar a completely different sound when you record it through the Leslie organ speaker.
Right. Now, is that because there's, I noticed on this song, there's a lot of acoustic guitar, a lot of mandolin, a lot of piano, and they do have some electric guitar in some songs.
Wait, you're talking Sugar Magnolia?
No. I'm talking just the album in general.
Oh, sorry. Okay.
Yeah. I'm just talking the album in general. This album, it has those, but there is, I find the electric guitar in some of the songs, it's very almost subtle in a lot of ways, and kind of like in the background a little bit. It's not in your face.
I think that when you record it like that, because of the way it splits the frequency and only the high end goes through the spinning horn, which is typically what you record, I think it does soften the sound. And I also think they use that same effect on Addicts of My Life, I think.
Okay.
And yeah. And I think there might have been, I don't know if it was Addicts of My Life, but I think one of them, they also did some vocals through a Leslie speaker.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. But anyways.
Yeah. Interesting. I'm trying to think of what song that would be, but I know I think
Addicts of My Life, but I'm not sure.
Is that what it is? Okay.
I think because that just has this like 1,000-petal Lotus. Just
Lotus. Yeah, right. Yeah. Then we get to Operator. This is Ron Pigpen McKernan's this is his baby. And the only one,
I think the only one he wrote with the group before he died.
Yeah, he passed away, and I'm not exactly sure how he passed away, but in the documentary they allude to him being sick. So I would say maybe it's some sort of cancer, unfortunately. But yeah, it's interesting because he sings this song, and it has again, dude, this is the first 4 songs of the album, all sung by different people. I mean, the lead part,
cool.
And
really cool.
It's very cool. And he does a great job for. I think this song is very, he may not have a wide range of how he would be able to sing, but this song it fits
in it real well.
What he does.
It is one of my favorite ones on it too. I've always loved the song, just the way that guitar intro plays against the chord that comes. I mean, it's really good.
Well, the thing that's funny for me from I guess what the song is about is, it's about kind of a guy trying to track down a girl. It's like Operator, he wants to get her number, but then I think back to the to the 60s and the late 60s, especially when you have all these parties and be-ins, and you meet people, and people are crashing on people's couches, and 20 people are staying in a house. Like, dude, a lot of those people probably didn't have, there was maybe one phone in the house, and I'm sure nobody knew the number. It's like you meet somebody at a party. It's not like today where you're hey, give me your cell, or you give me your IG handle, so it's like it's harder to kind of stay in touch with people. And think about how many children were probably conceived at parties and things like that, because people are having fun, and they're smoking and drinking and dropping and just having a good time, and then it's like those people, boom, they're out of your life. It's like, how do you find those people again? It's not like that, what was it on Craigslist? It used to be like,
missed connections, dude.
Missed connections, yeah, dude. Where was that back then?
I know. So, it was just like one of those little things at the grocery store where you pull a number off, on the bulletin board.
So now, basically, what this is Pigpen's. I kind of dumbed Pigpen's beautiful song down to Craigslist missed connections.
Well, that's actually kind of awesome, and it does prompt the second one from this episode of a spinoff, the song Operator, because you may know of another very famous song called Operator by a little gentleman named Jim Croce. So just saying, that'll come up at some point. Already added it to the list. I don't know if you heard me typing, but it's already on there.
welcome to the rest of your life.
Dude, I hope so.
All right. Well, then we wrap up side one with Candyman, which is actually it's like over a 6-minute song. It's pretty
longest on the
lengthy.
album, right?
Yeah, is it? I believe it is.
Yeah, it is.
Candyman,
and that's one. Jerry always loved a sad song.
Well, it's interesting because I listening to the lyrics of it, I tried to kind of figure it out a little bit, and Candyman doesn't seem like a good person.
No, he actually, I think it's like about a pimp or something.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, because it's like, pretty lady ain't got no friend till Candyman comes around again.
Yeah,
and it doesn't sound great. Or it was about a guy, a pimp, or even like a drug dealer, or somebody who comes back into the woman's life, feeds them a little bit, gives them what they need, and then is off again. So. And it's interesting. They do give Robert Hunter writing credit with Jerry on this song, but to me, it doesn't have Hunter's kind of touch of the kind of imagery that he typically conveys and whatnot. Of throwing in a lot of nature and imagery and stuff like that. So I'm not sure how much he had to do, but he is given some credit for it. So, but go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say my search engine isn't working at this time, but this may be the third instance of where this spawns a spinoff, because I also believe that there is a song of a very similar nature by Chris Christopherson.
We can only hope.
Yeah. So anyways, we'll see.
Yeah. But yeah, with this song, this is more of a Jerry-led song. Again, they really utilize their harmonies, which is basically a staple throughout this. Sugar, close enough.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, but there's also like a really great organ part in it.
Pigpen shining through.
Big pen. And I think Jerry plays, he plays the
pedal steel
guitar. It's pedal steel.
The pedal steel. Okay. And that comes up several times on the album. And that's one thing that was mentioned, is that in lieu of a lot of the real like psychedelic, really great guitar player. But in lieu of like your traditional guitar solo, that Jerry did a lot of pedal steel stuff on the album. And I think this song is probably the best example of it. And I think it comes up again on Broke Down Palace, and I think Till the Morning Comes, and maybe even Truckin'. There's a lot of it on there, but this example, I feel like it really shines. And I think he actually does a solo on the, or a bit of a solo on the pedal steel.
Yeah. Well, I say we flip the record, Grim, side 2 for you. And we start side 2 off with with two songs that are very much
similar,
slower. But the first one being Ripple, which to me it's a great way to start the album. It's very or start the second side. It's very different than the way you start side 1 with Box of Rain. But Ripple and who's the gentleman that plays mandolin? I forget his name.
David Grissman.
Fantastic
job.
Yeah, he does.
And I love in the documentary, he talks about, he was like, well, if they would have let me come in a bar earlier, here's what I would have played. And then he plays along with it, which
he just rips it. And it's great. Dude, he's phenomenal. He's really good.
And I think Jerry did albums with him later on.
Oh yeah? Okay.
Yeah, Jerry Garcia and Grissman, I think they did at least one or maybe some more albums together.
Cool. But yeah, it is. It's again a very folksy song. Jerry sings it really gently, and I found it interesting in the documentary. Some people had issues with the way Jerry kind of sang
which I don't get.
It's such a distinct voice. It's different. It's very it's different, but it sounds the quality I think matches perfectly with the music.
It's perfect.
So you people obviously don't know what you're talking about.
No,
neither does Rolling Stone.
Yeah, let me know when you guys start the Grateful Dead and
Yeah. Moving on to song 2, Broke Down Palace. And I believe, at least the last time I listened to it, I never noticed it before, but I believe it kind of transitions almost right into it.
I believe that is correct. Yeah.
So, and it's, again, another gentle song. But again, you're hearing that introspection and that maturity of a band, and got the acoustic, there's piano in there, again,
a lot of good harmonies.
Oh dude, the harmonies are just, they're killer. But my favorite line from this song is, listen to the river to sing songs to rock my soul.
Yeah.
Just
very good.
Just very, very good. Then we move on, pick it up a little bit. So we start side 2, it's a little slower, but then boom, Till the Morning Comes, and it's really upbeat. And I like that. I just like the juxtaposition of those two songs. Then going into this one, it's great.
Yeah, and I've always been a big fan of this song. I think the harmonies are great, and the it's got good lyrics too. But it to me, it's one of those ones you can really like sing along to. Yeah.
It is definitely one of the songs you can sing along to, and the lyrics that stand out to me are or kind of what I saw the meaning of the song. Again, it seems to be about sort of a relationship, but giving a woman, being the man, giving a woman peace of mind that, hey, I'm going to take care of you. I'm always going to be here for you. It's like, I'll watch out for you. You're my woman now. Make yourself easy. And repeat, make yourself easy over and over. Like, hey, I got this. I got this. So,
I like that. And then you get one little, and I hate to use the word lull, but I mean, in the musical sense, it slows way down, but just a beautiful song of the Addicts of My Life. Really introspective, 1,000 Petal Lotus.
Blossoming.
Yeah.
Just for all you yogis out there.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Dude.
But yeah, you're right. And really I'm just trying to think, what other instruments are there in this song? I mean, it's just, the only thing, the vocals and the harmonies are just so in front that's the only thing that really stands out to me.
Yeah, and really, I think there's like very, very sparse, if at all, drumming, but it's mainly just that guitar, which again I believe is through the slow speed on the Leslie, and then the bass. But yeah, but I think beautiful. I mean, when there were no tunes to play, you played to me. I mean, there's just some really beautiful lines in that song.
Yeah. And then we finish up with another kind of rockin' song, the single on the album, and Truckin'. It's one of the most popular songs of theirs. I'm sure they probably play it at every live show that they've done. It's just it's a really iconic song, and it's
about life on the road.
Yeah, life on the road and all the stuff they were going through, and just being kids and kind of being stupid, getting in trouble, mixing it up, and it's just so autobiographical that it's pretty great.
Truly.
And but also musically, like the song just moves. It's good. Like I agree with that. The music sounds like the title. It just kind of chugs along. And I really enjoyed in the documentary, which you should watch, when Robert Hunter talks about like the additional verses he wrote that weren't in the song, make it.
Or that I think that's cool.
Yeah. Well, and to me, the classic line and something we always say is, from the song, it's sometimes the lights are all shining on me. Other times I can barely see. Lately, it occurs to me, what a long, strange trip it's been. I mean,
and I think
if I had $1 for every time I said that, geez.
Well, yeah, and isn't there like, I mean, there's probably other documentaries and books and shit written about them with that title, The Long Strange Trip. I mean, that's like that was like their life.
It's like dude. It's kind of like the Wet Bandits, it's their calling card. The great ones always leave their mark.
Yeah. Now we know each and every house you've hit.
It's Wet Bandits.
Okay, so that's Wayne's World and
Home Alone. I worked in Boogie Nights early too.
Oh, you did? Okay. All right.
Yep. So, who's on deck, Grim? We're about to scratch away. This one's
this one's real tough. I actually sat there before we got on again, and I looked through it, and I was like, can we not scratch one on this one? Because
I started thinking about that too, because I started going through them and be like, okay, well, not that one and not that one, definitely not that one.
Well, and then the one I finally came to, I was like, I would be willing to bet, I don't have a lot of $20 that the one I pick will be the one dude picks. And I'm like, if this goes to overtime, what do you do?
I don't know, man.
Son of a bitch.
Okay. Well, are you first? Are you going?
I guess.
All right, go.
I'm going to scratch Candyman.
Oh, shit.
God damn it. I knew it.
That's the one, that's the one I'm going with as well. And give me your reasoning for it.
Well, just because to me, and I like the song, don't get me wrong, but it at almost, six and a quarter minutes, it kind of drags. And like, okay, so let's say theoretically side one ended with Operator. That wouldn't suck. If you only had those first 4 songs on that side, that would be a legit side of a record. And it's just, it's the one that like I could live without the easiest, not that I want to. So reluctantly, that would be the one that I would scratch.
Yeah, no, I'm with you there for sure. For the same reasons, really. It is, it's a longer song. There's not a lot of transitions where I feel like it's going different places. And to me, nothing stands out, I guess, musically, is compared to some of the other songs. And I think it would be cool to have side one, you have 4 songs all sung by different members of the band.
Yeah.
So that's why I'd go with Candyman. But
well, son of a bitch.
Now we get to the dreaded
overtime. I'm gonna make like a audio bit for that we can be like overtime. So
I can't wait.
So by the time this episode airs, it'll be there, right? Okay. Overtime.
So then, well, for me, it comes down to 2 songs, I think, that I would have to scratch if there was no Candyman. And I would have to choose probably, and it's hard, man. It might be maybe Broke Down Palace. Either that or Ripple. It's between those 2, I think.
You can't do Ripple.
I know.
God damn it, dude.
I know.
I hear you on Broke Down Palace. In order to avoid another lockup, we can't do the Islanders and Capitals games. No. So in order to avoid double overtime, I guess if I had to do another one, I'd probably do Sugar Magnolia.
Okay.
Not that I don't like it, but it doesn't. The other ones just have more of a special spot.
Yeah. Okay. I can understand that. Yeah, it's for me. Sugar Magnolia would be tough, but the reason I kind of was either choosing between Ripple and Broke Down Palace is because you kind of do have 2 back-to-back songs that have the same kind of feel to it. So that's the biggest.
But dude, Ripple's just such a it is, to me, it is like an American folk song. I mean,
I agree. Yeah. I agree. But it's, dude, this was a tough album. I mean,
I will agree. I think maybe the hardest ones. Well, dude, okay, Dark Side of the Moon. Other than Dark Side of the Moon, to me, this was the hardest one.
I forget all the ones we've done so far, but yes, there's been some hard ones.
Well, I can pull up the list, but yeah. I mean, just quickly, just doing a little browse. I mean, I think it was easier for me to do it probably on any other album that we've done so far, but this one was real hard, real Chris. Hope you're listening.
Yeah. Well, hey, everyone. We appreciate you guys listening. We'd appreciate it even more if you guys liked, commented, and subscribed and followed. That would be phenomenal. So until next week, have a great weekend. Stay safe and don't do anything we wouldn't do.
Which
Student Grimm
doesn't really rule a lot out.
No, it doesn't. All right, guys. Peace.
Scratch you later. Scratch a Track is produced by the Dude and Grimm. Additional music provided by More. That's ... M-O-R-E. And the Tims, T-I-M-N-Z. Copyright 2020. The Dude and Grimm Show.